Back when You Called Us Devils had beat my expectations for how a psychological revenge series could go. The series is about a boy named Yusuke who has amnesia. However, it turns out before his amnesia, he was known as a devil, committing rapes and assaults until he mysteriously got amnesia. The last video ended with Yusuke regaining all of his memories and now confronting one of his biggest victims, Akari. So with the series' premise literally close to concluding, even though we still have like 10 volumes left, let's see how this series continues. The series continues with Akari and Yusuke reuniting. Yusuke sheds tears as he declares that he doesn't have any regrets anymore, that he can finally deal with his own problems himself. Akari replies by asking if he intends to die. With his memories back, Yusuke says that the only thing left for him is to just disappear from the world while he still has his sanity. Akari then asks why he wanted to see her in the first place, and Yusuke says that it's because he loves her before pulling her in for a hug. Akari smiles and says that she wants him to listen to her story, the story of the Akari that he doesn't know. After Yusuke passed out, Akari stripped him of his clothes, tied him up, and then laid him on a boat just like he asked. However, she waits for Yusuke to come back home so that she could reappear as well. In the meantime, she stayed at capsule hotels and then used a hidden bank account to survive. However, when she tried to return, she had no idea that Yusuke had amnesia. At first, she thought he was just tricking everybody, but as she continued observing him living a normal life, she realized that he truly wasn't faking. The Yusuke that they once called a devil had blinked from existence, but Akari wanted the same for herself. At that moment, she felt freed from his curse and the dirty whispers that she always heard. But at the same time, she also felt disappointed. She only discovers her true feelings once Aizawa approached him. Afraid that he will be going back to being the devil, she realized that it was only a matter of time before Yusuke regained all of his memories and then comes to her. She also knows that once he remembered everything, he would want to die, but she refuses to let that happen because she doesn't want to be alone. She admits that she still loves him, but at the same time, she hates him so much that she would want to kill him. Akari confesses that she's suffering from Stockholm Syndrome, and then asks Yusuke to basically run away one more time just like they did before. They start imagining the possibility of running away together again, this time deep into the mountains, fishing, hunting, raising children, and then eventually dying of old age. But Yusuke rejects the fantasy, saying that it would never happen, and then he says his goodbyes as he leaves to die. Akari though suddenly appears behind them and declares that if he's going to die, then they'll do it together, because if he dies, she will no longer have a reason to live. As they begin to walk, Akari explains that the only reason that she's alive now is to see Yusuke again and then witness what would happen once he regained his memories. Yusuke panics, not wanting Akari to die, but she tells him that there's no other ending for her. Not after all of the crimes that he has committed against her. No matter how many memories he lost, his crimes will never disappear. Eventually, Yusuke and Akari climb up to the rooftop to jump off together and then end their lives. But suddenly, Tamaki rushes in to stop them. She pleads with Yusuke, but Akari tells her that it's pointless. There's no way to change his mind. There's no space to wiggle in, as Yusuke just stands there silently. Tamaki responds that while there may not be any space, she'll force her way into it if it means saving him. Akari then suddenly slaps Tamaki in the face. She tells Tamaki that she hates her because Tamaki is everything that she isn't. She says that she's just a version of Tamaki filled with nothing but hatred. Akari shoves her aside and then tells Yusuke to shut her up. Yusuke then turns to Tamaki and says, "We both just want to be comfortable." Tamaki calls him out, saying that he's only using Akari as an excuse and is just running away from all the crimes that he's committed. She demands that he apologize, but Yusuke replies that there's nothing that he could apologize for. Tamaki argues that it's not his decision to make, but it's up to Akari. Akari interjects, saying that forcing Yusuke to face his victims will only just drag everyone through hell. Ignoring her though, Tamaki calls for 2 of Yusuke's past victims to be brought to the rooftop so that he could apologize directly. The victims turn out to be the brother and sister who once attacked Yusuke's mother. Yusuke approaches them, ready to accept his fate though. He drops to his knees and apologizes as the brother raises a hammer into the air. Yusuke waits for the punishment to come, but the brother doesn't strike. Instead, he looks up at him and he says, "What kind of farce is this? What are you scheming this time?" Neither sibling believes Yusuke, thinking that he'll just punish them afterward. They start begging him for mercy while Yusuke just remains sitting there, deeply upset. Suddenly, Akari steps forward and then tells him that Yusuke is leaving somewhere far away and just wanted to say goodbye to his favorite toys before going. Yusuke then asks for the hammer as a souvenir. The brother then gives it to him before leaving. Yusuke then begins smashing his own hand repeatedly with the hammer, punishing himself. Akari goes up to him, telling him that it's pointless to hurt himself. She confronts him, saying that his crimes can't be atoned for. His only choice is to carry them forever. Tamaki is horrified, but Akari insists that there's no salvation for Yusuke or for herself or even for the brother and sister. She says that his crimes will haunt him until the day he dies. Even though Tamaki believes in forgiveness and people changing, Akari rejects that entirely. And honestly, I'm not surprised that Tamaki's plan backfired. She basically forced Yusuke into this confrontation without truly understanding the entire situation. She wasn't there during that part of his life, so she doesn't really understand it. And while she may know what he did, again, she doesn't understand the depth of the pain that he caused, especially the brother and sister, which I think are horrible picks. Yusuke concludes that there's only one way to end their story, and he and Akari walk to the edge of the roof again. Just then, Yusuke the cat appears at his feet, and Shu arrives. Shu reveals that Aizawa forced him to come, even giving the hammer to the brother, but never truly wanted Yusuke to die. Shu headbutts Yusuke in the face and then tells Akari that his victims won't be suffering for life because he's looking Yusuke in the eyes right now and telling him that he needs to keep on living. Shu says that he will never forgive Yusuke, but keeping him alive is the harshest punishment. Akari can't accept that though. She still insists that Yusuke should die, but this time, Yusuke steps in and then turns to Tamaki and apologizes. Akari then breaks down, rambling about her loneliness since childhood. She says that she's finally ready to die, but not alone. She cries out to Yusuke, "Don't ever leave me alone again, Yusuke." Just as she reaches out, Yusuke the cat leaps onto her arms. Yusuke tells her, "You call that being alone? You're not alone at all. You have someone who will always come when you call his name." Akari then begins to cry uncontrollably as the cat licks her tears away. We then cut to a year later. Tamaki visits Akari and Yusuke the cat, who has since fathered kittens. Tamaki takes one of the kittens and then gives it to Yusuke's mother. After a while, Tamaki then asks if she knew about Yusuke's crimes in middle school. Yusuke's mother pretends not to know what she's talking about. But as Tamaki leaves, she adds that if Tamaki ever becomes a mother, she must be willing to risk her life for her child, even if that child is a devil. Later, Tamaki visits Shu at the fast food place where he works. Shu tells her that Yusuke has been gone since that rooftop day. When Tamaki asks about Aizawa, Shu explains that he was beaten half to death and that Aizawa is now in the hospital, as we see that he has bandaged knuckles. Tamaki frantically asks about the blackmail data Yusuke supposedly had, but Shu reveals that it actually never existed. It was only a game Yusuke invented in middle school, a thrill that he created to feel like he could be exposed at any moment. That's why Aizawa wanted to protect him. He wanted to bring back the Yusuke who everyone once called a devil. The volume ends with them admitting that they don't know where Yusuke is, but one thing is certain: no matter where he goes, as long as he's alive, the past will always take revenge on him. Even though this is the end of Volume 5, I still don't understand why this isn't the end of the series. I feel like you could just end the series right here and it would be a great ending. Literally everything built up had already concluded, the characters have a happy ending, and Yusuke has a great ending of him accepting his past. So, how and why would this series continue? Let's go ahead and find out with the next volume. The series continues 10 years into the future, where we see an older Yusuke, broken and looking very different from before. We then cut to a new character named Aoshi, a 20-year-old working at a construction site to provide for his two sisters, Akane and Midori. After their mother passed away, Aoshi and Akane both took on jobs to support each other and then take care of their little sister Midori. One day, Aoshi heads out to buy a birthday cake for Midori's 5th birthday. But when he arrives home, he finds Midori sitting outside the apartment alone. Feeling concerned, Aoshi walks inside and is horrified to see a man without any pants pinning Akane to the ground. The man turns and then comments that they've all grown a lot since the last time that he saw them. Aoshi tries to fight him off, but the man pulls out a knife. It turns out that this man is their stepfather, and he demands that Aoshi gives him 50,000 yen, claiming that family helps each other. If not, he says Akane can always help him out instead. He begins to beat Aoshi viciously. Meanwhile, Midori is terrified and she runs away and then bumps into Yusuke. She bursts into tears, crying that Aoshi is going to die. That devil will kill him. Back inside, the stepfather pins Aoshi to the ground with a knife pressed against his throat, warning Akane that if she moves, he'll stab Aoshi's neck and then poke her somewhere else. We then get a flashback when Akane and Aoshi were kids. Their mother constantly dated abusive men and their stepfather was no exception. A year after Midori was born, their mother died during childbirth, but the stepfather remained in their lives. Even though Aoshi was often beaten for fighting back, he swore to always protect his sisters. Back in the present, Aoshi hands over the money, but the stepfather pins him against the wall and then threatens to kill him anyway. Just as he's about to stab Aoshi, Yusuke intervenes, grabbing the knife. He stares at the stepfather and then tells him if he's so ready to kill, then he should just kill him instead, pressing the blade against his own throat. The stepfather is rattled and then he panics and then runs off, but not before shouting that he'll come back because they're family. Relieved, the siblings celebrate surviving the ordeal and then invite Yusuke to join them for dinner. Yusuke takes a bath and then shaves, cleaning himself up to look more like he did 10 years ago. Together they celebrate Midori's birthday, with Yusuke even singing happy birthday alongside them. Later that night, after Midori goes to bed, Aoshi has a private talk with Yusuke. Yusuke explains that he's homeless, with no job, and has been living near the woods and the mountains, more recently near a massive dam. Aoshi offers to let Yusuke stay with them for a while. He says Yusuke wouldn't have to pay rent and that he would provide him with food, explaining that it's just his way of saying thank you for saving them from their stepfather. Yusuke advises them to simply just go to the police, but Aoshi explains that the police have been no help when it comes to their stepfather. Yusuke asks why they would even want him to stay when they've only just met. Aoshi replies that it's because Midori trusts him, something rare for her since she dislikes all of adults because of her father. If Midori trusts Yusuke, then Aoshi says he does too. The scene then cuts to the police investigating a dead body. The man had been beaten to death, stripped naked, and then left on a boat floating in the dam. The very same dam where Yusuke had been living. Now, does this mean that Yusuke is back to being a devil who just murders people? I personally don't think so. I think the series is gonna go into more of the action side of the horror genre, and most likely Yusuke is just being hunted down by one of his old victims. Even though I would like to kinda see a story where Yusuke goes back into being that devil, it would pretty much just make the first 5 volumes kind of a waste. The next day, we get a glimpse into Akane's life, but not before she accidentally walks in on Yusuke, changing and catching a sight of his scars. Yusuke brushes it off, saying that he had a nightmare but doesn't really remember it. Akane can tell that he's hiding something, as though there's a mental wall between them. While Yusuke heads off to work at a food factory, we see Akane's daily routine. She drops Midori off at school, attends her own classes, runs errands for groceries, and then finally picks Midori up at the end of the day. The teacher notices that Akane is pushing herself too hard, but Akane insists that she's fine, only to immediately collapse from exhaustion. We get a little glimpse into her mind as she says that she hates being pitied, especially when people look down on her for doing so much as a child. They just don't understand that they came from literally nothing. When she wakes up, she finds Yusuke sitting beside her. He tells her that she fainted and that he brought her home. He offered to make some curry for dinner, but Akane quickly refuses and then glances at her own scarred hands. She begins to yap, saying that people pity her and her family just for doing everyday normal things. Yusuke interrupts her, telling her that it doesn't seem that way to him. To him, they're just siblings who love and take care of each other. Akane then calms down and Yusuke heads off to cook some curry. That night, when the family gathers for dinner and enjoys the meal, Akane reveals that the mental wall that Yusuke had been putting up is finally gone. We cut back to the police, who have discovered another body in the dam. This time, a woman, but with no external injuries. They also realize that the previous victim showed no sign of resistance. This suggests that the killer was someone that the victim trusted completely, only to be betrayed and then murdered suddenly. A crime that the police describe as the work of a devil. Over a month passes and then Yusuke continues to live with the siblings. One day after he leaves for work, Akane tells Aoshi that she thinks that it might be time for them to let Yusuke go. Aoshi realizes that Akane has actually fallen in love with Yusuke, and he spends his lunch break at work thinking it over. That's when he's approached by a coworker named Kaji. Seeing how stressed Aoshi looks, Kaji asks if it's about the homeless man that he took in. Kaji then tells him that maybe now is the right time to send Yusuke away. Later, we see Aoshi standing on a bridge. He calls Yusuke over intending to talk to him, but just as Aoshi is about to break the news, Yusuke suddenly gets a call from Akane. She frantically tells him that she's being chased and that they need help. The two rush off as Akane hides beneath a bridge. Suddenly, two masked men grab her and then try to force her into a van. Yusuke and Aoshi arrive just in time, with Yusuke snapping a picture of the attackers. Startled, the kidnappers drop Akane and then flee. Yusuke and Aoshi chase after them, but Yusuke insists that he needs to go alone. Meanwhile, Akane and Aoshi regroup to pick up Midori. Akane then suggests that they stay at the school for safety. She tells Aoshi to go help Yusuke, admitting that she's afraid of what he might do for her sake. Aoshi is at first reluctant, but then he goes and leaves to follow Yusuke. He catches the sight of Yusuke speaking with an unknown man whose face we never see. Yusuke hands the man some money, and Aoshi watches suspiciously. He doesn't know what's going on, but when Yusuke walks away, there is a devilish smile on his face. Aoshi approaches him, pretending that he was just looking for him and then asking about the men who attacked Akane. Yusuke replies that they got away, but Aoshi can't stop thinking about the mysterious man that he saw earlier. When Yusuke asks if Aoshi left Akane alone, Aoshi reassures him that he had someone else looking after her. That someone turned out to be Kaji. Now I'm just saying, I don't like Kaji. Only because it's kind of odd that the first time that we see him, he's super interested in knowing about Yusuke and then wanting him to leave. And while Yusuke looks very suspicious, I don't think he's actually a part of the scheme. But maybe Kaji might. Midori and Akane are glad that both Yusuke and Aoshi are alright, and even Kaji thanks Yusuke for being there for them. Aoshi starts to think about sending Yusuke away and then questions why he would even consider it since he's been so helpful to them. He wants to pretend that nothing happened, but the thoughts continue to linger in his mind. The next day, Yusuke heads off to work, and meanwhile, Akane tells Aoshi that she takes back what she said about sending Yusuke away. Aoshi sees this as a perfect opportunity to tell Yusuke himself that he won't be sending him away. Aoshi then chases after Yusuke and then asks him about the man that he saw him talking to the previous night. Yusuke is obviously shocked by the question, and then he gives a devilish look. We then cut back to the police, who are questioning a woman in the neighborhood. They reveal that the two victims found in the dam were a couple named Masaru and Chie Toyota. Back with Yusuke and Aoshi, Yusuke explains that the man that he was talking to was just an old friend of his, and that he paid him because he owed him money. Aoshi knows that this is a lie, and he suspects that Yusuke orchestrated the entire attack, hiring the men to go after Akane just so he can have a place to stay. Aoshi confronts Yusuke again, but Yusuke turns to him with a pained expression. Meanwhile, the police continue questioning the neighbor. She explained that the couple seemed very close, though people in the area often thought that Chie was a gold digger. The couple had a dog named Yu, and then things drastically changed after Yu ran away. Chie took it very hard, but Masaru simply decided to get a new Yu. The police asked what kind of breed the dog was, but the neighbor clarifies that it wasn't a dog at all. It was a person, with the story implying that this person was Yusuke. Back with Aoshi and Yusuke, Aoshi tells him that all he wants is the truth. Yusuke admits that he had set up the attack just like Aoshi suspected, but then he immediately says that he was only joking, causing Aoshi to lose his composure and then lash out at him. Yusuke then pleads with Aoshi, begging him to believe him that he would never hurt their family. After thinking it over, Aoshi chooses to believe him. He walks away, telling Yusuke to make sure that he comes back home that night. The neighbor continues her story to the police. She recalls how the couple had taken in a homeless man, and just like how they would walk their dog, they would often be seen walking around the neighborhood with this man following behind them. Over time, the husband stopped going on these walks, and eventually the walk ceased altogether. The neighbor said that she would sometimes hear the husband screaming, and then later, the woman screaming, and then sobbing more and more frequently. The other neighbors begin whispering that a devil had possessed the household. The police debate whether the homeless man might have simply been defending himself or if he deliberately attacked them. If it's the latter, then they realize that they need to catch him as quickly as possible, as the volume ends with the reveal that Yusuke had only been faking his tears as he walks away with a devilish smile. But before we get to the next part, I just want to say that we now have a Discord server. So if you guys want to talk about your favorite series, get recommendations, and just connect with some like-minded fans of mine, then this is the server for you. We'll soon be hosting live community events like games, live reactions, and live readings only on the Discord server. So if you want to be involved in this, then why not scroll down and join our community. Also, we just opened up a Patreon, so if you guys want early access videos, uncensored videos, and just to support the channel in general, then why not go ahead and check out the Patreon. But back to the video. Volume 7 continues the story with everyone having breakfast. Aoshi tries to forget everything that happened, but it's clear that he's acting very differently towards Yusuke, and Akane calls him out on it. Aoshi leaves, and then we see Yusuke suddenly getting a slight headache. When Aoshi goes to work, he can't stop thinking about how Akane confronted him. He nearly gets himself crushed while consumed with jealousy that Yusuke is getting even more attention from Akane and Midori. Aoshi's boss notices how stressed he is and invites both him and Kaji out for drinks and to hang out with some women. Aoshi usually doesn't go out drinking, so he's really antisocial at first. Eventually though, he does loosen up and relaxes until his phone goes off. Akane is calling him because Yusuke's headache has turned into a high fever. Yusuke looks at Akane and then repeats the phrase, "I'm sorry." But Aoshi is super drunk at this point, and he ignores the calls. The next morning, Akane wakes up to find Yusuke completely fine, making breakfast with Midori. Yusuke says that he just has weird episodes like that now and then. Akane tells him that it reminded her of when her mother died. And then she asks where Aoshi is. We see Aoshi passed out drunk on the toilet. Feeling very disappointed, Akane asks, "What's gotten into you? This really isn't the Aoshi I know." We then cut to the police investigating the couple's house. One of the detectives asks why they're not just hunting down the killer, but the lead inspector explains that this case isn't so simple. Inside the bedroom, they reconstruct the crime scene. The killer entered, then bashed the victim's head in with a hammer repeatedly until he was dead. However, the true kicker here is that the fingerprints suggest that the homeless man didn't actually kill the husband. It was the wife who did. They theorize that while the homeless man may not have directly harmed anybody, he might have influenced their minds, driving the wife to kill her husband. The inspector checks the dog's diary that the couple kept. It contains a lot of pictures and entries about their days with Yu. One day, Yu vanished, and she has spent every single day searching for him. Eventually, the husband, Masuru, brought home a man carrying Yu's collar, and his name was Yusuke. Witnesses say that Yusuke had found the dog, but Yu had already passed away. Yusuke even brought them to a grave that he made for the dog. As Yusuke tried to leave, his stomach growled, and the couple took him out to eat. Chie was still mourning, but she seemed a little bit happy taking care of Yusuke. The diary then goes on, with Chie writing about visiting Yu's grave, where she overheard a group of boys talking about a homeless man who forced them to apologize. She continued walking and she found Yusuke completely beaten up next to Yu's broken grave. She brought him back home, and Yusuke explained that he saw the boys breaking the grave and then tried to stop them, but was beaten up instead. Chie was flattered by his actions and then convinced Masuru to let Yusuke stay with them a few more weeks since they felt indebted to him. The police aren't sure what to make of all of this, but the inspector concludes that if the couple had never met Yusuke, this tragedy wouldn't have happened. We cut to Yusuke picking Midori up from school. Midori says that she actually doesn't want to go home because Aoshi and Akane have been fighting a lot, but Yusuke assures her that it will all be okay. When they return, they find the apartment completely trashed. Midori runs up to Akane, who is crying in the corner. Yusuke asks if her stepfather came by and destroyed the place, but Akane shakes her head. Smiling, Yusuke asks if it was Aoshi. We then flash back to a drunken Aoshi demanding that Yusuke start paying rent, and then telling Akane that she should just quit school and work since she's just leeching off his paychecks anyway. Akane fires back saying that he's just acting like his stepfather. Aoshi snaps, destroying the apartment and nearly punching Akane. Back in the present, Akane wonders what went wrong with Aoshi, but Yusuke suddenly bursts into laughter, yelling about how all he did was just try to live. So why did it turn out like this? He blames himself, saying it's all his fault. Midori reassures him, saying that it isn't his fault. She was the one who called for help, and he was the one who helped. Together they head out to find Aoshi. They search various bars but can't actually locate him. Meanwhile, we see Aoshi drinking with Kaji and then several women. Kaji worries about Midori and Akane, but Aoshi insists that they're fine as long as Yusuke is there. One of the women points out that Aoshi has tears in his eyes. He then lashes out but then collapses, triggering a flashback to when his stepfather beat him down. A moment where he also promised Midori and Akane that he would always protect them. Aoshi then wakes up in the hospital, and Kaji tells him that he pushed himself way too far and he needs to apologize to his family. Soon after, Akane, Midori, and Yusuke arrive. Feeling super ashamed of himself, Aoshi listens as Yusuke asks to speak with him alone. Kaji takes the girls out for ice cream and then shopping. Yusuke asks Aoshi how he feels, and Aoshi admits that he feels like crap. However, Yusuke actually asks how it feels to have the place he tried so hard to protect taken by him. Aoshi is in shock. He doesn't know what to respond with. Yusuke calls him pathetic, and instead of lashing out, Aoshi just laughs. He says that Yusuke just wants him to say, "Get out of my life," but he won't do that. He knows Yusuke still wants to leave the family though, but just then, Midori runs in crying that he can't go. Akane then follows saying that she doesn't want him to leave either. Suddenly, Yusuke experiences flashbacks of what happened with the couple and then passes out in the hospital. His memories showing him putting the husband's corpse on the boat. We then cut to a month later, and life seems to be back to normal. Aoshi has stopped drinking, Yusuke has a job, and now he's living next door to the family. One day, the doorbell rings and Yusuke answers it, only to find a woman standing there who says, "I finally found you, you murderer." She grabs him and then asks, "Did you think you could ever run away from me?" Aoshi, Akane, and Midori rush out demanding to know what's going on. The woman introduces herself as Natsuki, a journalist who has been investigating Yusuke for years. She warns the family to cut ties with him and offers to reveal everything about his past. But Aoshi interrupts, saying that he doesn't want to know anything. Natsuki is stunned, but then Midori jumps in, insisting that there's no way Yusuke is a devil. Natsuki backs off for now, but warns Yusuke that she won't let him get away. Later at Aoshi's job, Kaji and his boss reveal that Natsuki visited and then asked questions about Yusuke. Kaji thinks that they should find out the truth, but Aoshi replies that Yusuke is just Yusuke, and he's not interested in knowing more. We then flash forward as Aoshi is holding a knife standing over his stepfather's corpse. We flash back to Yusuke having invited the family to dinner at his place to tell them about his past. He admitted that Natsuki was telling the truth and then confessed everything, but Aoshi thought he was just lying, saying Yusuke was a terrible liar. Later, Aoshi receives a call from his stepfather, who says that he's meeting with Natsuki about Yusuke. He threatens to expose him, but says if Aoshi gives him 100,000 yen, he'll back off. They agree to meet at Aoshi's workplace, declaring that it's his turn to protect Yusuke. The day before the exchange, Aoshi speaks with Yusuke. Yusuke asks if everything between them is still the same, even after hearing his story. Aoshi admits that it doesn't really matter, that everything is all just mixed up in his head. Yusuke just laughs, saying Aoshi reminds him of someone who once tried to stay by his side even after learning the truth. He thanks Aoshi and then asks him to tell Akane and Midori how great they are. The next morning, Yusuke is gone. Natsuki arrives at the apartment saying that she got the devil away from them, but Aoshi is furious, asking why she would ally with their abusive stepfather, even after knowing all the chaos that he caused them. Natsuki replies that Yusuke is far more dangerous, and that she vows to protect them from both devils. At Aoshi's work, Kaji tells him that their stepfather is spreading dirty rumors about Yusuke, that everyone who gets involved with them are either disappearing, having divorces, or even dying. Finally though, the time for the deal arrives, but when Aoshi walks in, he finds his stepfather already dead on the ground. The volume ends with the next day, as Aoshi is recalling what happened the night before. Suddenly, there's a knock at his door, and it's the two detectives who want to ask him some questions. And that is where we'll stop for Back When You Called Us Devils. I was honestly surprised that they didn't end the series back at volume 5, but honestly, this time skip arc is pretty interesting. My personal theory is still that Yusuke is innocent, that he has past victims committing these crimes to get back at him and to frame him. For example, we have Shu, who basically just gave that monologue at the end of volume 5 that seems like is going perfectly with this whole theme of the time skip arc, that his past can never go away. However, the beauty of this arc is that it's really hard to tell where they're going with this. We've had so many fake outs of panels of Yusuke smiling, Yusuke's scene at the hospital, Yusuke with the mysterious man with the cap, which honestly, to be honest, I think it's Aizawa, but I don't know. I feel like they're just trying to make him seem super guilty to the point where at the end, he'll just be innocent the entire time. But this new arc is pretty good. The characters aren't really that interesting, the new ones at least. The only one that I do like is Aoshi, a little bit, just because of his whole jealousy and almost tearing up the family plot. But other than that, this series is getting more and more interesting by the minute. But I want to know what you guys feel about the series. Let me know in the comments below, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you want more horror videos like this one. But I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.